Hi, my name is David Welch. You've seen me on multiple TV shows. You've seen me on Brother's YouTube channel showing you helpful, handy hints on how to get your truck back on the road. Now, one of the most common problems I run into with the old trucks is the doors are just sagging. They're slamming into my rocker panels, they're hitting the strikers, they're destroying my latches. So today I want to show you how to fix all that by rebuilding your door hinges. It takes very little time, very little tools, and very little money. First thing we're going to want to do is rebuild your hinges one at a time. Don't take them all apart. You'll forget how they go back together, even though it looks pretty simple. You're going to want to make sure that the pin, the head of the pin, goes in exactly the same way it came out. If you put it in upside down, it can fall out over the years. So you might want to mark the hinge on which area the pin is. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this in our hydraulic press. I'll simply press this pin down until it's a bit flat. Then I'll go ahead and I'll get a center punch. We'll put that in. We'll push it out the rest of the way. Then I'll show you how to take out the old bushings, put the new bushings in, and put your new pin back on. Here you can see the pin. Now, if you don't have a hydraulic jack at home, you would simply knock this pin until it was relatively flat with the top here. You don't want to hammer too much and smash any of this in. Since we've got the hydraulic press, we're going to use that. You're going to want to make sure that you get everything lined up nice and even. And then we're going to press down just until we get that pin to go even. If you're hammering, if it does not start to move after some pretty good hammers, then stop and take it back out, let it soak in oil, grab another hinge, and just do all the hinges that cooperate with you first, then go ahead and do all the hinges that don't after they've had enough time to soak. You might also have to sometimes escalate things. If it's really old and rusty, you might need to drill out the center of the pin until it gets weak enough to be able to pull out. But do all your easy stuff first. Let the old stuff soak as much as possible. Other helpful handy hints you can do is you can also use evaporust and miscellaneous rust evaporators, because they will help you eat all of the stuff around here and make it easier for you. Now I'm just going to need to move this down a little bit more and we'll press it out the rest of the way. So now I'm just simply pressing out the pin with my center punch. Obviously, if you were doing this with a hammer, you would just be hammering down and that's it. Again, if it binds up and gives you problems, stop, let it soak, and come back to it. If you get hammering too hard on these, you can do them damage, even though they are pretty tough. The last little bit right there. Now I'll go back on the table and show you how to take it apart and put it back together again. Now this is a 55 to 59 upper door hinge. Again, 47 all the way to 72 is basically going to be about the same. 73 to 87 is a bit different, and we'll have another video for you on that later. We're going to take this apart, and remember how it goes together. You don't want to get twisted up. It's got the old bushings in. We're simply going to pull those out. Sometimes what I'll do is simply grind off the top and push them in. Those out. I'll clean these tips up. I'm going to get a light hammer. I'm going to take our new bushings, which you will notice are not like the plastic ones we took out. I'm going to gently put that in. Same thing on the other side. Now I might need to hammer these down a little bit more, but what I will do first is test and see, and I won't hammer it any more than absolutely necessary to slide in there. It's good to put a little oil on these, a little grease. Now that I've used my hammer and my center punch to line this up perfectly, I'll get a little bit of grease on the end of this. That'll help us slide in a little bit easier. I'm just going to tap this in. I want to make sure that I'm centered. And I'm not binding into any of my brass bushings. Now that I have this in, I'm going to put it back in the press and press this all the way down. Make sure you set up nice and even. Obviously, if you're going to be doing this with a hammer, all you're going to be doing is hammering this down. If you're hammering, you're not hammering hard. Use a lightweight hammer, and when you get down to the very end of the tip, make sure that you are just hammering enough to get that pin to set in flush, but not so much that you're distorting your hinge. They are pretty tough, but they aren't invincible. Now I've got this done. We can take this off. I'll show you what to do with this leftover tab right here. My leftover pin here, I'm going to cut most of the way through it, about 90% maybe. But I am going to leave a little bit of a tab, so when I knock that off, this will bend over. That's just an extra helpful handy thing to do, because if you put it on backwards, it's less likely to fall out, and it's going to stay there for a nice long time. Now you can see our hinge is good and solid. We're not getting any drooping or sagging. That's going to last us a lot of years. Remember, do one at a time so you don't get confused. Remember to check out the rest of our YouTube channel, because you want to do your truck right, you want to do your truck with Brothers Trucks.